We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in the celebration of the life we share together.
Good morning. It is, dear friends, an honor to be with you again. It's very, very good to be with you again. Hear now these words of Lilla Watson, Aboriginal elder, activist, and educator from Queensland, Australia. If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. I'm going to say that one more time. If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. The web is always moving, always vibrating. What we do and how we live, that affects little Watson and our neighbors across the way and the angry, grieving families of Parkland, Florida, and the confused and frightened citizens of this country. We are bound together for good and ill, in sorrow and joy, whether we like it, whether it's comfortable, whether we think that's necessary. What does it mean that we are bound to one another? What balance might we strike that way? What does the interdependence of the web require of us? What does it call us to do? How about we sing together? In between the storm window and the window proper of my study at home, I've been watching a spider in a web. As I write, I have only to glance to the left to see the web building up in the corner between the two panes of glass. At some point, a beetle found its way into that web. I didn't witness the struggle, but I know there was one. There is always a struggle. I watched the spider spinning at the beetle, lots of legs moving in their disconcerting, spidery dance. I don't know its lifespan, but over the years, I imagine that the spider has been replaced with other spiders, just as the beetle has been replaced with other beetles. Between the panes of glass, when I watch and when I don't, that struggle, one pooling the other in a balancing act of life and death, that struggle can easily appear to be the dominant reality. It's all a part of nature, I know, that larger story of preying on one another, the living and the dying. My father took me to many a live-action nature movie when I was a child. In the darkened theater, we viewed lots of hunting predators bringing down fleeing prey. Lions and wildebeest, bears and salmon, tigers and sambar. Quite a bit of carnage we watched on a Saturday afternoon. Those stories bloody and violent. My father is a hunter as well. Brought home over the years pheasants and grouse, rabbits and white-tailed deer. Into the pot and onto the dinner table, they all went. My family was very clear on the cycle of life and our place in that story. Predators and carnivores, one and all. Spiders, for sure. And another thing was very certain, very clear to me. There was a metaphorical food chain as well. there was a hierarchy of dominance, and I better make sure I found myself on the top of that ladder. Eat or be eaten, winners and losers. It is easy enough to situate the spider and the beetle within this narrative of dominance. The spider the winner every time. We know this narrative of dominance is certainly one of our human stories as well. In 16th century Europe, the great chain of being made sure that the monarch and the farmer, the soldier and the blacksmith, the priest and the midwife understood their places, ranked unceasingly, located inexorably between God and his angels up there and all the beasts of the earth down below. The great chain is that ideological framework that made colonization and exploitation and perpetual enslavement of humans not only valuable, but the right way to do things. And that great chain persists in our thinking today, even though in many ways we have moved beyond it. It is a part of our Western imagination. It's in our DNA of binary thinking, either or, winners and losers, my way or the highway. On that great chain of being, we are all held rigidly in place by those links. But what about this? What if wildebeest suddenly began eating the lions, the sambar, the tigers, the salmon, the bears? Why, the world would be upside down, wouldn't it? It wouldn't make any sense. That upside down, that's a fear circulating in our culture right now, though, isn't it? What if the dominated rebel or refuse? What if the historically underrepresented? What if the children telling adults how they should act? What if they reject their place in the chain? Won't they simply turn the tables? Won't they reshape their place in the great chain, leaving the rest of the domination intact? Will I become a loser? I saw Black Panther last week, and this very viewpoint, this fear, is vividly expressed. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. Now, is this really the way we want to imagine our relationships? Is this the world we want to live in or leave for our children? A reality where we balance our interests and desires against others, claiming all the privilege we can get away with? Can we not imagine a better connection, a wider circle, a different lens by which to view the spider and the beetle? A web of relationship rather than domination, and the depth of compassionate spirit. Really, go see Black Panther. That's how the story resolves, in relationship filled with compassion. Superhero movies can be amazing. Let us imagine together, for we all need to be in this together. Let us imagine interdependence, relationship all the way down, all of us made of the same stuff of life, all of us, and all of everything, as Carl Sagan said so beautifully, all of us made of star stuff. The spider between the panes of glass in my study, that spider is not simply dominating the beetle, simply higher on the food chain. Rather, they are both on that web, living out their life stories on the web, held together by the web. The web is from out of the spider, but the web is also of the spider, made of the same substance, that also makes the spider what she is. And the beetle becomes the spider when it is consumed by the spider. And thus the beetle becomes the web also, the sustenance that enables the spider to continue spinning. And so the web is also of the beetle. The spider, the beetle, the web, they are interdependent and more. They are one another. Without the one, the other, spider or beetle or web, the other simply ceases to be. Now, as Unitarian Universalists, we pledge to respect the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. Our seventh principle is clear. We too are part of, not apart from, the web of all existence. And Ursula Goodenough reminds us that we are embedded in the great evolutionary story of the planet Earth, the spare, elegant process of mutation and selection and bricolage. We are connected all the way down. Now here, my friends, here is where I'm going to ask more of us Unitarian Universalists, even more than our seventh principle suggests. It seems to me that more than respect for the interdependent web is called for today. We require of ourselves more than respect. Physically, chemically, biologically, we are all star stuff. We are connected all the way down. We are the web. And it would be a failure of imagination to limit this interdependence to our bodies, to the physical environment. And yet our perspectives can be so limited when it comes to feeling our interdependence with one another. How might we truly live into that interdependence? Not just respect it, but live into it. If interdependence is in our very DNA, how might we make that interdependence a reality of our thoughts and feelings and actions? Here's one way to think about it. In 1990, historian Laurel Thatcher Ulrich published The Life of Martha Ballard based on her diary, 1785 to 1812. Ulrich won the Pulitzer Prize for this work, and it's work that recovers a bit of the economic productivity of women in the Revolutionary War period of Euro-American history. Martha Ballard began keeping her diary when she was 54 years old, and that in itself begins to weave an intriguing web of life experiences and relationships and the implications of them. Like most white women of New England in the 1700s, Martha's primary role was to marry, to bear and raise children, and to create the cloth that would be sewn into clothing for her family. Her husband was prosperous enough to own a house with a spacious and light-filled attic, perfect for weaving. And Martha was fortunate to have 2 daughters and 2 nieces to help her weave. To help her weave by the action of warp and weft on a loom, the cloth that's referred to as webs. Martha was part of a network of women who taught their daughters and nieces and helpers to weave cloth webs, and in that practice, to create both the material that would become clothing, as well as the social webs of interdependence across families and geography. Because she was part of this community of women who who taught and supported and worked with each other. At age 54, Martha could enter the social web in a different way. She had been cultivating the skills of a healer, and so she entered the lives of people beyond her family and town at those times of most travail, at birth and at death. The creeks and rivers, the roads and pathways became as threads in the warp and weft of the social web Martha helped to weave and to expand. She was called for to be with women as they birthed their children. She was called for when laboring women soon died in childbirth. She was called when neighbors in distant towns fell ill and when they passed from this life. We sometimes say that in our world we are born alone and we die alone. But Martha's life and work reminds us that such a declaration is too simplistic, too limited for describing our interdependence with each other. We enter this life from out of the bodies of mothers with careful hands to bring us safely into being. And similar hands hold ours as we pass out of this life, the only one we truly know. Careful hands perform, in Martha Ballard's words, the last offices of friendship as we are ready for our passage away from loved ones and neighbors. Through her work and her living, through the diary she kept showing us the way, Martha Ballard reveals that we are both on the web and of the web. We create the web, even as we participate in the web. And through our living, we weave the web of interdependence, a fabric, a tissue full of patterns intricate and varied. How beautiful is life and living in its richness and variety. We are connected all the way down, all the way in, and that means that we are anything but alone. I find that such a comfort in a world that breaks my heart every day. I am brokenhearted when my neighbors struggle to maintain their health without the insurance I am privileged to have every day. I am brokenhearted about school shootings and street shootings and police shootings every day. I am brokenhearted about callous assumptions pitting us against them, winners and losers, denying our common humanity. My broken heart is the very reminder that I am not alone. Such is our reality if we open ourselves to new lenses of understanding. I feel the impulse, friends. I feel it all too vividly, that impulse to push away from the raw realities of our world, to shut out the pain and suffering that seems to belong to other people far away in experience or location. I have pushed away. I have ignored. And those are actions, for they are actions and not just thoughts. Those actions have consequences because we are all interdependent on this web of all existence. My neglect trembles the web as much as does my attention. We are connected to the uninsured, to the school shootings and street shootings and police shootings, to political bankruptcy and more. Unbidden, the pain of those events affects our lives, most especially as we try to push feelings away or act resigned like nothing can be done. Something is always already being done, even if what is done is denial. That too has a consequence. Because we are all on the web of interdependence, neglect, and dismissal, any form of turning away causes a wound as much as any deliberate action to harm. We are a thinking people, rational and intelligent, and we can easily, all too easily, think of ourselves as strung out on a web, spinning in the clutches of others, bound by a chain in helplessness. Or we can imagine ourselves on the woven web, a cloth of patterns and mutuality and vitality, even if the vastness of it exceeds our ability to perceive it all. Rather than oscillate between sorrow and joy, between engagement with reality and disengagement from the pain of living, rather than seesaw up and down, let's imagine a new way to achieve balance in this life. Let's actively seek our interdependence. Let's repair the web. Let's begin today, right now, in this sanctuary, a refuge and a nexus of sympathetic togetherness. So turn to each other. Yes, I'm asking you to look away from me and instead to look at each other. I know it's hard and it's awkward, but give it a try. Turn away. Do not look at the lady in the front of the room. I would ask you in this moment to turn to your neighbor on either side or nearest you. And you don't have to say anything, but don't let anyone be alone. You don't have to say anything. You may feel a little discomfort. Keep looking at each other. It's okay. Turn to each other and open your heart to feeling the presence of your kin in this room and on this web of existence. Turn to each other. Listen with your heart. Gaze at each other's faces. Feel what you feel. It's okay. And know that we must be here for each other, truly here and present, tuning ourselves to each and all in the community of this room, this congregation. Tuning ourselves to all here present so that we might tremble the web intentionally in relationship with our other kin, so that we may not be only helpers but servants alongside any and all, working for liberation, for justice, for peace, and for love. Okay, it's all right for you to return to your normal gaze. Not that I have to tell you. Return to your normal gaze. But let us all return changed and aware. My friends, the web, the spider web and the cloth web. The web trembles. It trembles when we take action or no action, for we are anything but alone. Let us take some of these actions deliberately. Let us promise each other, like fishers with their nets, to repair, to maintain our interdependence, our needful relationship, incomplete without each other. Let us give thanks for this life of interdependence, beautiful and heartbreaking as it is. Yes, friends, let us promise this today and every day as you remember you are loved, you are worthy, you are welcome, and you are needed. May you feel it so.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you.
us for worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, a welcoming congregation. We are located at 3024 Cooley Road, 4 miles west of South Main Street, Canandaigua, just north of the intersection with Routes 5 and 20. Look for the blue signs just before the turn. Your comments about this program or questions about the church are welcome at 585-396-1370 or at our website, www.canandaiguauu.org. Producer and editor, Daniel Brigham.